Today, I'll be showing you some terminology and notation for Rubik's Cube so you can be on your first step to becoming a Rubik's Cube master. So to start off, you'll notice there are 6 sides. You have the orange, yellow, blue, and then you also have the red, white, and green sides. So when I say those sides, that means that whatever side is in the center, that will be that face of the cube. So when I say the yellow face of the Rubik's Cube, that's the one with the yellow in the center. And these centers always have the same orientation to each other. So yellow is always going to be opposite of white, orange is always going to be opposite red, and blue is always going to be opposite of green. So what happens is no matter what you do to the Rubik's Cube, you can change it up a little bit. Blue is still going to be opposite green, red is still going to be opposite orange, and yellow will still be opposite of white. So to get started on the notation, so there are different letters that you can say. It's basically the language of making turns of the cube. So for example, this is an R turn, and this is an R prime turn. So you can denote which way you turn it by whether or not there's an apostrophe after it. So if you have no apostrophe, that means clockwise, and if you have an apostrophe, that means counterclockwise. And there are 6 different main turns, and it's with respect to the side facing you. So for example, right now, the orange side is facing me, so all of the moves that I make will be in respect to this orange side facing me. So for example, we have an R turn, which means the right side, and it'll be clockwise with respect to the right side. So just remembering that you're looking, let's say, at the orange side with the yellow on top. If you were to make an R move, this way is clockwise because when you look at the right side, this is a clockwise move. And if you do it 4 times in a row, it'll go back to where it was. Now, if you have an R prime, which is the uppercase R with the apostrophe after it, that means you turn it counterclockwise with respect to the right face. So this is the right, and this is the right prime. Now, for the left side, it'll be actually the opposite when you're looking at it from the front. So this is an L, and this is an L prime. So you might remember this is the R, but this is an L. So R is actually up, but L is down. But that makes sense because when you look at the left side, this is clockwise, and this is counterclockwise. So sometimes you may just have to visualize a clock turning to remember which side you turn it to, but after a little bit of practice, it will make a lot more sense. So now we have R and L. Now we also have U, which is up, which is the top row. So this one's a little more easy to visualize because you can sort of just turn it to look at the top. When you turn it clockwise, that's a U, and then counterclockwise is a U prime. So you have up, and you also have down. So down is a D, and this is the bottom row. So this will be a D, and this will be a D prime. And that's because when you have it facing this way, that's clockwise, and this is counterclockwise. We also have the front, which is denoted by a capital F, and that's the side facing us. This is really easy to visualize because this is a front, because it looks just like a clock turning, and then this is counterclockwise. And then you also have back, which is B. And so that's with respect to the back. So that's a B, and that's a B prime. So even though it looks counterclockwise when you're holding it this way, you have to remember it's the opposite because you're going to be looking at it from this point of view. So just to quickly recap, this is an R. This is an R prime. This is an L. This is an L prime. This is a U. This is a U prime. This is a D. This is a D prime. This is an F. This is an F prime. This is a B. And this is a B prime. Now you'll also see sometimes a 2 after the letter. So let's say you have F2. That means just turning it twice. Now you actually don't really need to worry about the orientation of which way you turn it, because when you turn something 2 times this way, it's the same as if you turned it 2 times this way. So those are the 6 main ways of turning the cube. But there are also cube rotations. So you're actually going to have to imagine an XY axis or XYZ axis, or you can just kind of memorize it if it's easier for you. So it'll be turning along these axes. So an X axis goes left to right, Y axis goes up and down. So imagine that it's fixed on that axis. So an X rotation is turning it this way, and this is X prime, because it's along this x-axis. So imagine there's like a spear going through it from left to right. So turning it x is this way, x prime is this way. And then you also have a Y turn, so that's as if it's going through up and down. So let's say it had like a spear going through it up and down. So this would be a Y turn, and this would be a Y prime turn. And there's also Z. So a Z turn is rotating it this way, and a Z prime turn is rotating it this way. You won't see many Z turns when learning to solve, but there will probably be some X turns, maybe some Y turns as well. There are also some more uncommon terms. For example, there's an M slice, which goes this way. There's an E slice, which goes this way. And there's an S slice, which goes this way. And I've never really encountered the S, very rarely E, but the M's are a little more common. And there's also lowercase letters. So there's the uppercase R, which is the right. But there's also a lowercase r, which is where you, instead of turning just one side, you actually turn two sides. So this is an r, and this is an r prime with the lowercase. There's also the same thing with u. So you can do all of the main turns with two instead of one. So here's an L, here's an L prime, but lowercase. And you can do that for basically all of the different turns. You're not going to see these too often, but it's something to definitely take note of. And you may also run into different terms online. For example, there's a Friedrichs method, which is basically a more advanced way of solving it in only 4 steps. There's the beginner's method, which takes usually around 7 different steps to solve the Rubik's Cube, but requires less memorization. And if someone refers to their time as like an AO5, that means their average of 5, where they take 5 different solves in a row and that take the 3 middle solves, average those together. There's DNF, which means you didn't finish a cube. PB is your personal best. And those are the main terms that you'll see being kind of thrown around. So I'm going to have future videos that go over how to solve the Rubik's Cube, but this should be enough to get you started with the terminology so you're not confused when you start learning. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments down below. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.